Climate change is a real and undeniable threat to our entire civilization. The effects are already visible and will be catastrophic unless we act now. Through education, innovation, and adherence to our climate commitments, we can make the necessary changes to protect the planet. These changes also provide huge opportunities to modernize our infrastructure, which will create new jobs and promote greater prosperity across the globe. Human beings are causing climate change, largely by burning fossil fuels. Rising temperatures correlate almost exactly with the release of greenhouse gases. For the 18th century, when humans in the industrial West began to burn coal, oil, and gas, our atmosphere typically contained about 280 parts per million of carbon dioxide. Those are the conditions on which civilization developed and to which life on Earth is adapted. As the use of fossil fuels spreads through the world, the amount of carbon in the atmosphere is skyrocketing. In 2002, we were at 365 parts per million, 252 in the atmosphere. And just 2 decades later, we're crossing 420 ppm. At the same time, demand for animal-based agriculture by wealthier countries has seen other greenhouse gases like methane and nitrous oxide rapidly rise. The contribution agriculture causes about 15% of global emissions. Burning fossil fuels remains by far the biggest single contributor to the problem. Fossil fuels were responsible for 89% of the energy sector greenhouse gas emissions in 2021. This is compounded by the fact that carbon dioxide stays active in the atmosphere much longer than methane and other greenhouse gases. Fossil fuel companies are taking millions of years' worth of carbon, once stored beneath the earth as fossil fuels, and releasing them into the atmosphere. Keeping fossil fuels in the ground is the most important step we can take to prevent further climate change. An overwhelming 99% of scientists agree that climate change is being caused by human greenhouse gas emissions. There is no meaningful debate about the basic science of climate change. In the 1890s, we knew that more CO2 in the atmosphere will warm the climate. Attacks on the credibility of climate science are perpetuated by vested interests, including the fossil fuel industry, which continues to pump money into creating uncertainty about our understanding of climate change. Just between the 2015 Paris Agreement and 2019, the top 5 oil majors alone have spent a combined $1 billion on misleading climate-related branding and lobbying. The oil company Exxon knew about climate change's impact in the 1970s and found out that action would impact their bottom line. As a result, they joined an industry-wide attack on the truth, creating a false debate that prevented action for decades. The same is true for Total Energies. Historians have found that the oil giant knew their core business was causing global warming almost 50 years ago. And yet, they covered up the truth, funded misinformation, and lied to their shareholders and the public. Now we know that Exxon, Total, and other companies have been taking actions to protect their infrastructure from climate change for decades while fighting action to protect the rest of us. Exxon wanted us to believe their spin, but that requires disbelieving scientists and those of us on the ground. Indigenous, traditional, and local knowledge has been telling us the climate is changing, and that the way we relate with the planet is not sustainable. More than 24% of the most preserved lands on the planet are managed by local communities or indigenous peoples. And as Ailton Krenek, an indigenous leader and writer from Brazil, has pointed out, people think climate change is something for the future, but we live that inside our forests for a long time. Our way of living in any place on the earth is through the constant interaction between people and nature. All indigenous people respond in different ways to the destruction of the natural base of our lives due to the colonization processes. We do that with what remains of our memories and traditions. And this composes our cosmovision and sustains our resistance. We pay attention to what scientists and most impacted communities are telling us. Instead of fossil fuel industry deceptions, the message is clear. Humans are causing the rapid onset of climate change, which is already bringing costly impacts across the world: economic, environmental, social, and human. The best way to stop it is by keeping fossil fuels in the ground and accelerating a just transition towards a clean, just community-led future for all. The climate crisis is happening now and to all of us, but it is not felt equally by everyone. It exacerbates inequities and cuts across all aspects of our lives: food, jobs, health, human rights. The only real solutions are those rooted in justice and putting people and communities first. A world beyond fossil fuels is also a world with more equitable gender, racial, migrants, workers, and social rights within and across borders.